Hi guys, welcome back to another interesting tutorial. This is Ajilan here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and if you're new to my channel, you're welcome. Consider subscribing and turn on the bell icon so that I get notified whenever I post new videos. Alright, so for today we are going to be making a simple baby girl dress with a pleated band and a bubble sleeve. So if you're interested, keep on watching. I have my pattern. This is for a 2-year-old. I'll be using this pattern to make this dress, and I also have my pattern here. This is the sleeve pattern, the basic sleeve pattern here. You can also check my videos on how to draft the basic sleeve and also on how to draft the basic bodice. I have videos on this, so I'm going to drop the link in the description box so you can check it out, so that you can see detail on how to go about drafting your own basic bodice and basic sleeve pattern. Alright, so I'm going to take the basic bodice now and cut it out. Alright, before we now alter this sleeve, we're going to alter this sleeve to a bubble sleeve. Okay, so I'm going to start by taking this and then cutting it out on my fabric. Here I have my pattern. That is the upper part cut out. This is the back and this is the front. Okay, you're going to cut out your lining same way. For me, I'm going to use the same fabric as my lining, alright, because I have more than enough. Okay, so I'm going to keep this aside so we can alter the sleeve to get the bubble sleeve. Now this is a basic basic sleeve. Okay, like I said earlier, you can also check out the description box where I will drop the link for on how to make this pattern. Alright, so I'm going to open it up now and place it on a plain sheet here. This is a plain paper, so I'll just place it on top. We're going to start with this upper side. This upper side, we're going to add a little ruffle on this edge, and for you to do that is very easy. I will just add 1/4 inch all around that upper part. Okay, so here I have 1/4 inch. Okay, just add it a bit, following the line. Alright, so for you to do this, it all depends on how much volume you want this upper part to have. If you want much volume, you can go ahead and use 1/2 inch, but I'm okay with 1/4 inch. So I'm going to follow it, trace it down. This is my 1/4 inch. Please use your tape to measure this so that you don't make any mistake. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead now, cut it out. So after cutting it out now, we are going to be slashing it. We will use the slash and spread method to get the bubble sleeve. Okay, so I'll just go ahead now and cut it out. And after cutting it out, make sure to note the front and the back side. So this is the front. I'm going to note that this is the front side, so that by the time you attach on your bodies, you should not make any mistake. Okay, so I am going to fold it into two. Okay, so we'll just fold into two, and then I'll just mark out 2 inches upward from this side. Okay, so this is where I'm going to end my slashing, because I don't want the ruffles to be that much on this lower end. So this is 2 inches. I'm going to mark that point. Okay, then I'm going to connect it straight. You can also open it up and then connect that to a straight line. Okay, so this is it. Alright, I'm going to slash it open. Next thing to do, we are going to be using the slash and spread method to make this double sleeve. So to do that, I'm going to check what I have as my round the sleeve measurement here. So here I have 10 inches. That is what I have here. So I'm going to divide that by 2 and it's going to give me 5. Okay, so this is to say that my slashing method should be in 5 places. So to do that, we're going to divide that in 2. I'm going to use 2 inches to get the 5 slashes that I need. Alright, so I'm going to mark the 2 inches. Okay, this is 10, so I'm going to notch. This is 2 inches here, this is 2 inches, this is 2, and this is 2. Okay, so I'm going to connect them to this line. Okay, this way. This is where we're going to be slashing it. If the measurement that you're working with, that is the round the sleeve measurement is 8, you're going to divide by 2, and then you can also decide to have more than what I'm doing here for the slashes. It all depends on the volume that you want to achieve on this end. So I'm going to slash it open. I'm going to slash it open and end it on that line right there. Okay, like I said earlier, if you want more, you can increase the slashes. Okay, so this is it. Now this is what we have. Alright, so I'm going to place it again on a plain sheet like this and spread it out. You can decide to use 1 inch or ½ inch as the distance between each of the slashing. Okay, you understand that. But for me, I'll be making mine ½ inch because I don't want this part to have so much volume. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and open it up, and then I'll use my paper tape to secure it very well. Okay, and I'll be making sure that I have my ½ inch distance from all these. Okay, so I'll keep on moving them like that. This is ½ inch here. Okay, don't worry about this side. By the time you gather, everything will set in very well. So this is it. Okay. So on getting to this side, I am going to use my marker to mark it out. Okay, so this is what I have now. So this is it. After tracing it all out, this is what I have. I'm going to remove this now and then cut this out. This is what we'll be working with. Okay, and now remember, before slashing this out, okay, make sure that you cut out your lining exactly the same way, because the lining, we're not going to be slashing the lining. The lining should be exactly this shape. Okay, so now this is it. I'm going to cut this out, so I will now place it on my fabric and cut out so we can start sewing. Okay, so it's very easy. I'll just cut it out. After cutting it out, make sure to note the front and the back side so that you don't end up making any mistake while joining it with the bodies. Okay, so this is it. This is the front and this is the back side. Okay, so I'm going to cut this on my fabric, and this other one that I said for you to cut out on your lining, we're going to be cutting this separate as well. This is the lining. As you can see, I just cut it exactly like that, and this is the main one that we just marked out. Okay, so I'm going to take this now, and first thing to do is to notch the midpoint. Okay, so I'm going to notch it. So this is the midpoint now. I'm going to take the bodies. This is the bodies. I just joined the shoulders together. So we're going to check what we have here, that is on the armhole. So this will help us to know how to go about adding the ruffles on this upper part. So I'm going to take my tape now and check. This is the shoulder, and also remember that you need to minus your sewing allowance. For this, I use ½ an inch as my sewing allowance, so I'm going to put that into consideration. So I'll just take my tape and go around this way to check what I have. Okay, I have 6 inches here on this other side. So if you add plus the back side, that will be 12 inches. So for this front side is 6 inches. I'm going to minus ½ an inch from that, which is my sewing allowance. So I'll have 5½ inches left. Okay. So I'm going to take my sleeve now to check what I have from this side. This is the front. Remember, this part is the front. So I'll just take this and move it around to check what I have. Okay, so I have almost 7 inches on this other side. Now remember that at the end of the day we should have, this is 7½ remember to 7 inches. Remember to remove your ½ inch also as a sewing allowance. So we're going to be left with 6½ Okay, so this is to say that we'll just need, say, 1½ just to add the pleat, so that by the time you join with the bodice part, it's going to match up nicely. Okay, so I'm going to mark out 1½ or just notch the point from this center point. This is 1½ there. Okay, and then I'm going to fold together to also mark it on the other side, which is here. Right, so this is where your ruffle should be, just from this point to this point. Okay, if it's above this point, you'll end up having shortages at the end of the day. So I'm going to make this part now my ruffles, just small ruffles here. Okay, and then I'm going to take my gather stitch and run this side all the way down to the other end. Now for the lining, I'll repeat the same only on this upper part, while this down side is going to be the way it is. Okay, so let me just do all the sewing so that we can join it with the bodice part. This is it. After sewing it, as you can see, I just use my gather stitch and run it through, and I use the little tiny plate on this side. If you want, you can also use the gather stitch on this side, it's still okay. And this is my lining. I just did that on this upper side, while this downside is as it is. Okay, so now I am going to gather this. Remember that we have 10 inches here, so I'm going to gather this. I'll just pull it like this until I have 10 inches. Okay, so after doing that, now I'm going to place it on this other one and sew it on top, making sure that it matches together. I'll just keep on pulling it until I have 10 inches. After that, I will now place this on top of it this way and secure it very well. This is it. I just join it together with my lining, and as you can see, I have a very little ruffles. Okay, if you want yours to be very obvious, you can make your slashes 1 inch distant from each other. That way it's going to be very full. Okay, for me, I don't want it that much. I want it very light. And as you can see here, I just stop stitch on the lining. This is the lining. I just stop stitch on that. So I'm going to turn it over now, and we have our bubble sleeve almost ready. Okay, so this is how it looks at the front, and this is how the inside looks like. It's very the ruffles is very small, and I love it this way. Okay, like I said earlier, if you want more, just increase the inches that you want to use when you were slashing it. Okay, so at this point I'm going to close it up now. I'm going to stitch this together with the lining and then cut off the excesses. and then the sleeve is ready to be joined to the body's parts. Right? Okay, so we're going to take the bodice and check what we have on the waist area. Okay, so for this I have 12 inches, I guess. Okay, so I have 12 inches. So you make sure that you have 12 inches here. Okay, so I'm going to open it up and I'm going to mark out 12 inches, which is here. Okay, so I'm going to cut this out to a straight line. Okay. Alright, so this is 12 inches here now. Okay, so now the next thing to do is to determine where you want the plate to be facing. If you want it to face towards the neckline or towards the waistline. Okay, so I'm going to make mine to face the waistline. So all you need to do is to decide how many inch you want to be using for the pleats. Okay, so for me I'll be making mine 1 inch, and you also decide where you want the band, where you want it to end on this waistline. You can decide to make it half of this, like from the armhole. You can decide to make it 2.5 to end here, or even more than that. So you can just decide where you want that to end. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to fold in the first one inside, as you can see. Alright, so I'm going to stitch these points together before folding the rest of my pleats. I just sewed that part, I folded it in, and this is how it looks. So at this point you're going to fold your pleats and decide how many inches you want your pleats to have. That's the distance from each pleat to the other. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and fold it this way. Okay, I want mine to be half an inch. Okay, if you want, you can also make it 3/4 or 1 inch. Okay, this is half. Alright, so I'm going to fold, and then I'll use my pin to secure it very well. So for mine, I'll be making it 4 pleats. So this is 4 pleats here. Okay, so I'm going to stitch it very well on this end. Alright. So let me just quickly do that so we can sew these other parts inward before we join it to the bodice part. After stitching it on this end, and this is how the pleats look, all that I'm going to do now is to use my iron and give it a good press. Okay, so after that I'm going to take it in, okay, the same way we did on these parts. So I will just turn it inside, making sure that I will also have my half an inch here. Okay, so you just turn it inside this way, and now you see that it matches nicely. So I'm going to stitch it, okay, on this end, but I will not be stitching it to this side. I'll just stitch to half of what I have inside, and I'll repeat the same on this other side. Then I'll cut the remaining one out before we join it to the upper parts. As you can see, I just finished sewing it, and this is how the front looks while the back looks this way. Now you can see that you have a very neat work here. So I'm going to take the bodice, which is this one here, and as you can see, I just joined the shoulders together. I just sewed the neckline and I've joined this already. Okay, so at this point we're going to join the band. This is the band. So I'm going to separate the lining from the main fabric this way. Okay, so this is it. I'm going to place it on top, making sure to leave my half an inch for the sewing allowance on the waist area. So you're going to make sure that it's up this way. Okay, I'm going to straighten up this. Then make sure you leave half an inch here, and then I will secure it on both sides. So after that, I will now I'll close the sides together and repeat the same on this other side. Then I will now join the sleeve, and we're almost done. Finished joining the side together, and as you can see, I've attached the sleeve, and this is how it's looking. All right, so this is the pleat side. You're going to secure it on the center. okay, or you can just look for places like 3 places to secure it so that it will not be moving up and down, so that it will be steady on this side. All right, so this is how to go about making this. Like I said earlier, if you want much volume here, you can just use, instead of 1/4 inch that I added to the sleeve, you can just add 1/2 inch or 3/4, depending on the volume you want to achieve here. And also on this part, you can use 1 inch, okay, on the slashes, so that you can get more volume on this end. Alright, so that is it for today. Please subscribe if you are not, and I will see you all soon.